Hey you witches, how you doing today? It is cold and rainy / snowy here in Alberta, and yeah, it is not a nice day, and so I thought let's snuggle up and come and bring you another video. So today I want to talk a little bit about ancestor work when your ancestors suck. Maybe they were, I don't know, they were a Nazi, or maybe they were a slave owner. Maybe it's more recent and they have been abusive. Your ancestors were abusive to yourself, to your parent, to your grandparent. And how do you deal with that or address that in your practice? How do you have an ancestral practice when your ancestors suck? So before we get into it, I do want to introduce myself. For those of you who are new around here, my name is Taya. Welcome to the channel. We do talk about all things witchcraft. And for those of you who are returning viewers, maybe coming in from another video, welcome back. I so appreciate the support. Thank you so much. And all of you, please consider subscribing. It's a really great way to help us build the channel. So, ancestor work when your ancestors suck. So first of all, what is ancestor work? There's kind of two ways to approach it. The first part is you can work with your ancestors in your witchcraft practice. So that's like necromancy, calling in the spirits of your ancestors to lend their virtue, lend their energy to your workings. And another way to do it is to do like ancestor worship or veneration, where you are like honoring your ancestors and providing offerings and remembrance. Those are kind of two different ways to work with your ancestry. And we have two very distinct types of ancestors we can work with: the beloved dead and the mighty dead. So the beloved dead are those ancestors that we receive through our family lineage, through our bloodlines. They are inherited. When I am born into this biological bloodline, and therefore those are who my ancestors are. We have no choice in that. Those are the ancestors that we've inherited. And then we have the mighty dead, which are the spirits of the dead that we choose to work with. So typically it's those who have earned our respect and who have maybe been trailblazers in our lifetime. So somebody like, say, Doreen Valiente, or Gerald Gardner, or Robert Cochrane, or somebody who has contributed to, say, the witchcraft movement in a great way, that we want to work with and honor their, maybe not their biological ancestry, but their ancestry in, say, the witchcraft movement. So we have those we choose and those that we are born with. So I want to talk about the beloved dead, those who come from our ancestry and bloodlines that we have no choice in, right? And sometimes they're not so savory, if not outright evil. So yeah, like I said before, they could be Nazis or slave owners. They could be recent abusers. How do we deal with that in our ancestral practice? So there's a few different things to consider. So the first thing, this is a big one. To me, this is like the biggest one. We need to consider the depth and distance of a family history. So as an exercise, how many of your ancestors can you name going back by generation? So I know my name. I know the name of my parents. I know the names of all 4 of my grandparents. I don't actually know all the names of my 8 great-grandparents. I do have them written down, but off the top of my head, I don't actually know all the names of my great-grandparents, and I don't know the names of any of my great-great-grandparents. So that's a very small, that's like 2-3 generations that we can typically name that we know, out of tens of thousands of generations, because as human beings, our lineage, our biological ancestry goes back 5 to 7 million years. All right, we're not just talking about the people you were born from. We're not just talking about history, written history. We're not just talking about prehistory, prior to what was written. We are talking all the way back to like the evolution of humankind. That is a lot of people to work with. So to put it in context, let's go back maybe about 450 years. That's about 16 generations for most people. So we are looking at the 15 to 1600s is the time period of about 450 years ago, which for most of us approximately is about 16 generations back. Do you know how many individual people make up your 16th generation? It doubles every generation back. You have 32,768 individuals in your 16th generation. That's just going back about 450 years. 32,768 individuals. Are you getting a feel for how big ancestry is? Our lineage is huge. So, out of all of those people, right, now that we can kind of comprehend the size of it, out of all of those people, choose the good guys. As you're tracing your lineage back and you go back a few generations and you hit a Nazi, skip them. There are other good people. Don't choose that branch of your family. Choose a different branch. Those are not the people, the spirits that you want to bring into maybe your necromantic works, right? I'm not calling in those spirits to work with me. I've got lots of other spirits to choose from. If I'm doing ancestor veneration and honoring, I'm leaving that ancestor out. I am just not going to work with or address them. And that's okay. You can do that because even if we go back like 450 years and you find a bad guy back there, there's still 32,767 other individuals to choose from. Now, are we going to know them all by name? Heck no. In my 16th generation, I think I know the names of 7 people. But just because I don't know the name of an ancestor doesn't mean I can't work with them. Okay? That's like a whole nother video. Right? If it's a recent abuser, right, of yourself, of your mother, maybe one of your parents was born of rape, you can skip that, right? If that was like your mother's side of the family and she was born of rape, well, that's like, okay, a quarter of your lineage that you're not going to work with. You still have the other 75%, right? So you can always skip around those individuals. Now, I wouldn't just completely skip them and not deal with it at all. Because sometimes we need a little bit of peace of mind, right? Knowing that we are descended from somebody who's not so savory. So the first thing that you need to know, and I want all of you to take this to heart, you are not your ancestor. Okay? Just because somebody in your biological lineage did something not so nice, that doesn't make it who you are today. You are not your ancestors. But if you're wanting some peace of mind, you just need to ask yourself, what can I do to not repeat those actions? What can I do to not repeat those actions? Right? If it makes you feel better and it's within your capabilities, you can actively work to sort of repair your family legacy. So, how do you do that? Just ask yourself, what can I do in my community to counteract that? So maybe it's elevating the voices of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Maybe it is helping the homeless. If it's recent history, if we're talking about an abuser of yourself or a parent or grandparent, get therapy. Get therapy, learn new coping mechanisms, right? Often when we become new parents, we parent the way we were parented unless we make very active and conscious choices to undo those patterns. That is just sort of the biology of your brain, right? I default to what I know. And how do I know how to parent? I looked at how I was parented. So if you want to undo that, get therapy and learn new coping mechanisms. Right? And I hope that this is sort of helpful. You are not your ancestry, and just because you have some unsavory individuals, you can choose to work around them. And if you want to, you can address that family legacy and do what you can to make it better. Okay, so hopefully that gave you all some ideas. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Yeah, there's still, so much more to talk about, so much more to address, but I thought that was a good way to get the conversation started on what to do when your ancestors suck. All right, that's our video for today, and we will catch you in the next one. Mwah! Thanks so much, you guys.